Okay, hello grade sevens. Welcome to another exciting edition of Canadian history. And we're going to start today with chapter 3. And I'm going to be making a series of short 5-minute videos because this particular thing here only allows me to do 5 minutes. So we're just going to get started here. All right, so when we're looking at chapter 3, what we're doing is we're going to start by looking at who is living in North America at this time. Well, we know that there are First Nations peoples that are living all throughout the whole continent of North America. And we know that there are French settlers that are living along the St. Lawrence River in what is now, at this time, New France. But they are not the only people who are living on the continent of North America. At this time, we also have a population of English people who are living here. And they sailed their ships across the ocean, and they landed a little further south than the French did. And they landed their ships along the coast in what is now the United States of America. But at this time, it's not the United States of America yet. They are British colonies. And there are 13 colonies, and they're called the 13 colonies. That's the name of them. And there are 13 different colonies. And those people who are living in those colonies are English, they are British, and they are traditionally at war with the French. So the people who are living in New France have those British people to think about. They are competing for the fur trade because the English also want to get their hands on those beaver pelts because they make great hats. The English also want to become close allies with the First Nations people, and they're looking for those advantages, and they're trying to get what they can in order to be the most prosperous. So we have this British Hudson's Bay Company. This is a company that's owned by Great Britain that is all about the fur trading. And they are in direct competition with the French and the Coureurs de Bois at this time. And the First Nations peoples have a choice to make. Who do they want to align themselves with? Do they want to align themselves with the English or with the French? Well, the First Nations peoples are scattered in terms of their own allegiances because they have different kinds of tribes that are speaking different dialects. And so some people are choosing to align themselves with the French, and some First Nations people are choosing to align themselves with the English. So when we look at how these Europeans, when we look at what they were doing, I'm just going to slide down here if I can figure out how to do that. There we go. Okay. So the French are actually smarter with how they adapted to the way of life in North America, because the winters were really harsh, because there were unique challenges that they had to face. These people who were French, they were really smart about it. What they did was they looked to see how the First Nations peoples were doing things, and then they took advantage of those smart ideas that the First Nations peoples had. So they were using canoes. They were using snowshoes in the winter. They were using dog sleds for winter travel. The English really didn't do very much of this. They were kind of like, we're British, we're the smartest people around here, and our way is the best. And they weren't really interested as much in looking at how the First Nations people did things. So in order to try to firm up their position, the French wanted to make a big peace treaty with First Nations peoples because they felt a little isolated and alone, right? They got this small little French colony, and they know that there are 13 colonies of English, and they know that there's a lot of First Nations peoples, and they thought, we really need some allies here. So what they did was they organized what's called the Great Peace of Montreal in 1701. And oh, I'm approaching my limit. So I'm going to cut this off right now, and I'm going to come back on a new video with the Great Peace of Montreal. Turn this off.